Thank you, Mr. Speaker. America does, in fact, face a retirement crisis. Nearly half of Americans approaching retirement years have absolutely no retirement savings. There's not much gold in their golden years. And 4 out of 10 Americans in a recent survey indicated that they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're barely making ends meet. They had little or nothing available in reserve. When they were asked if they could meet a sudden, unexpected $400 medical emergency, 4 out of 10 Americans said they could not even do that. Those are the individuals that certainly do not have the resources to save enough to set up a standard of living in retirement comparable to what they've had before retiring. So as usual, our Republican colleagues are masters at naming bills. It's just what they put in the bills that is a problem. Now, this is a good example. This is the Family Savings Act. But whose family gets the savings? Well, if you're out there listening, probably not your family. For families that have little or nothing in savings, this bill does nothing. Much like the bloated Republican tax scam and its sorry sequel that AARP condemned this very day, this Republican bill is all about helping those at the top and doing little or nothing for those who are struggling to have a golden year in retirement. There are, in fact, some modest measures that they've got tucked in this bill that I support, that AARP supports. And I agree with AARP that we should encourage more small employers to offer retirement plans. I am all for the little good parts in the bill. It's just the giant omissions that I'm opposed to. The first of those omissions is the almost half of Americans that they forgot about, that they left out of this bill. As usual, the second big problem is they haven't got the slightest care about how this bill is paid for. They're going to go out and borrow more money from the Saudis and the Chinese and anybody else we can beg for to pay for the debt in order to pay for this. They don't pay for a penny of it. And that's consistent with their approach, the proud success of this past year, adding trillions of dollars to the public debt because they don't care about it anymore. All their budget deficit hawks, they flew south for the winter and they stayed there. The people that are out there that can't save at the moment for retirement, they are the folks that rely on one of the most important programs and set of programs that this Congress ever approved. And that is, of course, Social Security and Medicare, over Republican objection. Now everybody seems to be for those programs, but they are jeopardized when you add trillions of additional dollars to our debt. And that's what this bill contributes to. It adds almost $9 billion in debt. Nearly half of its cost is for what they call universal savings accounts. They should be better known as universal tax shelters. And they will do little to increase retirement savings. Rather, they will be universally exploited by people who are already saving to get a little bit more tax benefit. Over the next 5 years, existing tax incentives, before this bill is ever approved, those that are already in the law, existing tax incentives for retirement savings will cost us over $1 trillion. And one study found that 2/3 of the benefits of this $1 trillion of tax expenditures goes to the top 20% of Americans. I don't begrudge any of them. One of them is me. One of them is every member of this Congress. I think we need to encourage members of Congress and all Americans to save more. But I expect that those of us that are using these tax-advantaged accounts now don't need a great deal of additional incentive to use them to the maximum. What we do need is to help those Americans who couldn't afford that $400 emergency or who have nothing in retirement savings except their Social Security check. It's not that they don't want to save. It's that if you can't pay $400 for a doctor bill you didn't expect, you're not going to have very much saved when it comes time to retire. Now, surely this Congress can do more for these families. I must say, I don't really mean this Congress. I mean the one that's coming in January that cares about the retirement crisis we have now, not the one that has shown indifference to half of Americans. What we get today instead is just another tax incentive for shifting retirement savings around. To take full advantage of this bill, you need, I will yield myself another 2 minutes.
Gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
To take full advantage of this bill, you need to have about $100,000 in income. If you even look at this bill as the Joint Committee on Taxation has done, you will see that 2 out of 3 Americans are not expected to use it at all because it doesn't help them. And what about the 1/3 who will use it? They are the people like me, like the other members of Congress, who earn on average twice the median income in this country. So it does help those of us who have been successful, those at the very top who are the wealthiest. It doesn't help the rest of America. For those with the resources, Joint Tax looked at the huge price tag on this bill, and they said that what we're basically looking at, and I quote it, is it derives from taxpayers shifting savings that are allocated to other types of taxable accounts into these so-called universal savings accounts. So just moving the money around. And we now have a study that really shows what a great job these guys have done with reference to this concept. It is a study that shows for every dollar of additional debt you get, a little bit of a similar program that was studied, you get 1 penny of additional savings. That's the bargain they're offering us today, really. Spend $1, borrow $1 from the Chinese, and you will generate 1 cent of additional savings. So under this so-called universal tax shelter, the earning returns from their investment portfolio allow them to avoid some capital gains tax, cost the Treasury, but the Republican universe just doesn't include many ordinary Americans. It is those who don't have retirement savings in tax-advantaged accounts who rely on Medicare and Social Security. We need to protect that basic framework for retirement, and you don't protect it by borrowing ourselves into further debt, and I yield back.